Good everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. So today I'll be talking about the customer-centric discovery. Let's take this as a form of a workshop, right? Now you must be wondering why this guy is only covering theory session. You have to understand one thing, right? We are talking about a Service Cloud consultant certification. So Salesforce have included things which you should understand as a consultant, right? And being a consultant is very different than being a admin or a developer. I mean, though I can say that a consultant can be both, but consultant is a different skill set. So when you take a certification like Sales Cloud Consultant or a Service Cloud Consultant, there is a certain requirement you should meet before you go and take the certification. So this is one of them, right? Especially on the uh, Service Cloud side. Now, why do we need to focus on the customer centric discovery workshop, right? So, say your customer might have a business challenge, right? And so, as a consultant, you will have to find an opportunity to help your customer to solve the business challenge or the problems they're having. So, to do so, you need to, understand a few things. You need to gain insight into your customer business challenge, first thing, as I mentioned. And then once you figure that out, you need to share that information with your customer to see what's going on and the things they can improve. And then at the end, you can, work out an opportunity to work together, to solve the problems. And in return, you can make some money out of it, right? At the end of the day, right? The customer problem is an opportunity to make money. I mean, people will sound a bit defensive, but at the end of the day, most of the consulting firms, right, they are there to solve the customer problem, and in return, they get rewarded in form of a financial benefit, right? So, and plus, the reputation will spark in the market as well, saying, "Hey, this is a reliable consulting firm to deal with when it comes to solving business problem." So, keeping that into consideration, let's move on. Yeah. So um, now, if you're a consultant, okay, so if you're a consultant and you've been tasked to um, uh, do the workshop, okay, say the discovery workshop. I will shrink this one, right? So keep it here. So you're a consultant, Salesforce consultant. So we are talking in terms of Salesforce, right? So it could be any other technology as well. It could be SAP, could be any other ERP system available in the market, could be Microsoft or whatever, right? But our main focus is on Salesforce at this stage. So if you wanted to, be a part of, if you wanted to drive, um, customer centric discovery workshop, you have to work towards the path to success. Okay. So what that involves is to create a strategy based on a confirmed change, and and you need to focus on a solution that actually fits your customer requirement or needs, right? So the few things you have to keep in consideration, what forms a part of the customer centric discovery workshop. So I will explain to you each one by one. First of all, know your customer, right? This is very important. And be your customer. And so I will explain then what each mean, right? Then you have to connect with your customer. Um, Sorry if you're hearing the rain. It's just been a bloody bad, crappy weather. Um, you know, it's just been raining for the past 2 days. Um, so yeah. Okay. Right. So we'll arrange it. Connect with the customer, and I'll tell you in a nutshell what it's all about, right? And let's work towards a scenario, right? I will use my company as an example, right? And just okay, right, right. Right. Okay. So these four things. Okay. So first thing, right? You need to understand. I'll just give you in a nutshell, what each box means. Then we can get into the detail, right? Now, get to know your customer, which is very important things, right? So before you meet your customer, you need to understand the customer domain they work at, right? You need to understand the business needs, right? For instance, if your customer deals with a pharmaceutical, you can't bring in the domain knowledge of the law firm, right? So you have to understand the customer needs. The challenges your law customer will be very different to a challenge your pharmaceutical customers will have. So you have to understand your customer industry and business. Okay. Um, so that's the first thing. And be your customer means you have to walk in your customer's shoe. You have to understand the challenges the customer face, right? It's easy to suggest something, right, from 1,000 feet above, right? But when you actually start walking in your customer's shoes, you will understand the pain and the challenges they're facing, right? That's where the real, consultancy skill comes in the picture, right? You have to take think from a customer perspective, right? Then you have connect with your customer, so based on your analysis, you need to share your insight with your customer in a simple nutshell, right? Now, the final thing is that, okay, you talked about customer, you understood the business needs, you understood the challenges, you decided to walk in their shoes, and then finally you decided to build a strategy which will help your customer. So this is where creating your customer strategy comes in the picture, right? Um, so this is very, I think this is a very simple explanation. I believe that just to explain, what each box means. Okay, now let's get into a little bit detail, right? Now get to know your customer, okay? So now before you approach your customer, right, you need to understand what drives the customer industry, right? If, let's say, take an example of the pharmaceutical. You need to understand the customer, needs and the things which they do, right, and the competition and the challenges what they face, especially in the pharmaceutical industry. And then if you get an opportunity, you need to read the customer reports about the industry, um, about the industry, and also, it will be very useful if you learn about the customer um, industry on the social media, and LinkedIn is a great place, right? You can look at it. So, so as a part of the discovery workshop, right? So let's go back to and do some discovery workshop, right? If you're a consultant, you will do workshop, right? I have done workshop. I mean, when I worked as a consultant, I've been a part of a workshop, and trust me, it is an interesting exercise. It's the most interesting exercise, I would say, right? I mean, my background is in programming, but then I moved to consulting space, so I've been doing consulting ever since, right? Then I do architecture as well. So I do tech consulting, right? And sometimes, I need to squeeze in the functional aspect as well, which is very important. Okay, sorry, I digress. Just look at know your customer. Okay, so let's do an old school, right? Okay, now I give you an example from my business perspective. Okay, as you know that I run a company. I'm a founder of Inspirate, a solution. So my partner, business partner, and I started this company last year to give Salesforce certification training, right? Especially in the form of an architecture space, because we realized that there is a lack of architecture certification in the Salesforce market space. There are a lot of admin platform developer one out there, but there are a few people talk about the real architecture certification. So we come up with a plan. Let's build it and let's sell it. Right? Simple, nothing fancy there. Okay. So let's say this is. I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario. Okay. Let's say I've hired a consultant. Okay, from XYZ consulting firm, right, to look at the problem what we face, right? And the consultant is giving me a discovery workshop. Okay, let's look at from a consultant perspective the things which you should be asking, right? First of all, as a consultant, right, you should be looking at studying my industry. Okay, first of all, the training industry. right? So what's the trend that's happening in the Salesforce training space, right? And what is exactly that is lacking in the Salesforce training space, uh, and and what is the language of industry, right? You need to, if you're a consultant, you need to speak the language I understand. If you started talking to me in the language like, okay, the customer matter, for instance, if you started talking in form of law, like in law, there's a very common term called matter, right? So which is usually associated with a customer case, right? When you go to a lawyer, you open up a case, so they call it as a matter, right? Because I worked for a law firm, developing the software, so I understand the terminology. But in general, right? If a consultant, right, started using that terminology, I will like, what the heck are you talking about? It's kind of irrelevant, right? So you have to understand the language of the industry, the language of the training industry, right? The language, like for instance, the Salesforce certification training, right? Salesforce boot camp, right? Say for instance, training a new someone who is interested to get into Salesforce space. These kind of language, as a founder of a training Salesforce training company, I will understand. Okay, so if you're a consultant, so you need to speak that language. It's very important. Okay, pretty simple, nothing fancy there. Now, you also have to understand the trend and challenges which affects the industry. Okay, so you need to ask the questions like, the reviews of my course, right? For instance, what is the user expectation around my course, and the feedback my students are placing on my course content, right, in my website. So you need to look at those trends, and you need to analyze them right before you even start this discovery workshop. Okay. Now, the first thing you need to understand as a consultant, know your business. Okay. Know the business, right? So if you're a consultant, you need to understand my business, what I'm doing. Okay. So what that means is that if you wanted to know my business, you need to know a few things about my business. Okay. The first thing you need to know, what are the goals about my company? What exactly we wanted to achieve? You should ask that question. If you haven't asked that, that's a good place to start. Okay. And and about the values, right? It's very important, right? What are the principles that we actually believe in, and which is, you know, and excuse me. So that's the one thing. And then you have to, as a consultant, you can ask, hey, uh, do you have any plan to achieve, the goals, right? So you can say plans, right? Um, So, and another thing you can ask, and are you facing any problems or obstacles, right? So problems, right? So when you understood my business, right? So you come up with this the thing, right? Plans, problems. Okay. Um, Remember one thing, right? You might think, oh, why it's important. This is important, right? Because if you don't understand the goal of my company, the problem what we're facing, and the plans what we have, to achieve our goal, you cannot come up with a solution or strategy to help me, right? To help me or my business partner to grow my company, right? So goals. What's your goals? Okay. So if you ask me what's my goal, or as my goal or my business partner goal as a company is to scale our company to greatest heights, so that one day it it will become the leading, Salesforce architecture training course provider on this planet. So that's the goal. And the values, the guiding principles, the values associated with, you can ask, and the plans, what plans you have. So if you ask me about my plans, the plans, like, well, I'll just give you a simple example, right? I'm not giving out my company plan or anything. I'm just giving you just 0.1%, okay, information, because if I tell this stuff openly, my business partner will be extremely annoyed, because and I can't tell any things without consulting her. So there are certain things which I can't talk about my company. So only things which I'm allowed to talk. So I can give you that information here, right? Because it's not good, and I cannot reveal it. So the plans, just the plans, right? Just to release, say, XYZ certification. in this in 2022. Okay, and the problems we'll be facing. Okay, problems I can say, lack of um, the resource or lack of XYZ. Right. So the things I can say now as a so you as a consultant write down all of these things and say, okay, these are the goals of Inspire Solution. These are the values. These are the plans. These are the problems what these guys are facing. Okay. Now let me come up with. Okay. So now as a consultant, you can say, okay, let me come up with some plan to help them. So before you do that, I would expect you to ask a few questions again, right? Because if you say, all right, this is my know my business and I'm done, I won't be very happy with that because you haven't finished all the questions, right? In fact, I have to ask you questions if it doesn't look good, right? Because you're a consultant, it's your responsibility to ask me the right question. I mean, most founders may or may not know what the things which they think are missing, right? So that's why you hire a consultancy firm, right, to keep an advice or solution to the problem. Okay, so then as a consultant, you should ask, how the heck do you guys make money, right? Sorry for the language, but I'm just saying in a casual way. Excuse me. How do you guys make money? Uh, is that only through the training course or for other means, right? Okay, so you can say that. And then, what challenges do you face while to achieve that goal, right? And so, what is your priority for 2022, right? So that kind of questions really fits into know your customer, right? Workshop, and then also you can. And another thing, like I mentioned right in the beginning, like my partner and my sorry, my partner and I started business partner and I started this company, right? And you can ask, what's your role in the company and what's the role of your business partner in the company and how many employees you got, right? So that kind of questions you can ask, right? And and so yeah. So that's the one part. So in a nutshell, right? You can now another uh, part which we have to cover. That's this one. Be your customer, right? So you have to be in the customer shoes, right? So you need to, as a consultant, right? You need to actually step into the customer shoes to understand the problem. You need to have one of the most important thing as a consultant. You need to have skill to empathize, right? Because you need to understand, uh, a common ground, so you can solve the problem there. And also, if you're a customer, so sorry, if you're a consultant, you need to develop a genuine interest in your customer business, right? If I'm a like if I've hired you to give consultancy, if I figure out you're just BS around and not really paying attention to my business, not really showing interest in my business, then I will tell you to bugger off. Simple as that, right? Because then I will not be interested to get the consultancy service from you because to me that seems like you're not interested in solving the problem we're facing. Okay, um, so you have to look for genuine interest. So you should be showing genuine interest in your customer business, okay, which is very important. Then also you should look for shared experience. Okay, now this is means like uh, you know you can respond in a way that makes sense to your customer, right? Uh, so you can think about a similar experience you had with another customer and the approach you have used to solve the problem. Okay, so you can consider that. So these are the reason why I'm mentioning this one, right? You must be thinking, how does this relate to your workshop? This is 100% relate to a workshop because you need to come up with a solution. You need to be very proactive. You need to really genuine, like you need to say, for instance, if I'm a consultant, I can say, hey, I understand your business model. We had a similar challenges in the past with another customer, but make sure you should not reveal your customer identity, right? Because if you're a consulting firm, right, I will not expect you to reveal my information to another customer. So before you give solution, you should not be mentioning, which customer you serve. You can say we had a similar challenges with one of the customer, which we don't like to go into details. So based on the experience what you have, I think we know what your actual problem is, and we know the solution, right? So that's a pretty good answer. But if you started spilling the beans, saying, okay, I work for, we had XYZ customer, they had this problem, that is a compliance issue for me straight away. That means I cannot trust you because you're spilling the beans of other customers, right? So pay attention to that. It's very important. You should not reveal any information related to the other customer in a different workshop related to a different customer, right? That's a big no whatsoever. If you're a consultant doing it, it should be taken as a strict compliance issue, in my opinion. And the company who hires you should be taking a disciplinary action against you because you are revealing someone else's information to a different customer. Okay, right. So so now another thing what you can do, right? So for instance, I run a training company, so you can ask the questions like, okay, so what is it like to be a? So you can try it yourself, right? You can probably ask me, hey, can you give access to one of the courses to see the user experience? I wanted to experience as your user, so kind of things, right? You can and to see, and I can give you feedback. So, right. So, some companies will have a salesperson or service representative, so you can act as one of them to get the experience. Right. Uh, XYZ. And or another thing you can do, right? You can shop on the website. You can call customer service to see if you're getting a positive feedback. So you need to act as a customer, right? Just to see the problem you're facing. So in my case, right? So for in this case, you can act as the customer of my customer, just to see the problem the customer is facing, why customers do not like my course or why customer likes my course, right? So you can get that insight based on that perspective. So I hope that's clear. Um, then we can actually talk about. I understand that it can be boring, but stay with me. I'll try to make it interesting. So now another thing is we're going to talk about connect with your customer, right? Uh, so this is a kind of a excuse me. Okay, now when you talk about this kind of things in a workshop, right? You need to have few things into mind, right? You need to be very honest about it, right? So share your experience with the business in an honest and optimistic way. Okay, so this is one thing you have to be very honest. Honesty is the best policy, right? Because you're a consultant, you try to help your customer, so you have to be honest about it. Do not sugarcoat the stuff because most of the business owners they're not interested to hear the sugarcoat word, right? If I'm like as a founder, I don't care you sugarcoat the words. I'm not interested into that. I just want an honest opinion, the things which we're doing wrong, right? Now you can say something like, we have seen this before, like I said, uh, and say, these are the things you're doing wrong. These are the things which you can improve. Like you can ask me a question, right? Do you have any mobile app for your training site? I can say no. Unfortunately, no. We are building at this stage, so you can say, all right, and uh, so how do you think that your current website is doing? So that kind of questions you can ask. So that's where honesty plays a very important role. Uh, so yeah, so you can also it's very important, uh, you know, to ask the right question, right? So that's you have to have the right tactical questions to ask, and at the same time be open about it. So you can pretty much have a whiteboard session with your customer, and you can write down the ideas on a whiteboard, and then you can brainstorm right with the customer, using a brown bag session or a sticky note, right? Some companies do that, like, so this is like one of the discovery workshop, like I'm saying, and you can pretty much store diagrams, and organize ideas by priority, right? So you can write down, right, these are the things, these are the business ideas. You can see. So to connect with the customer, you have to be saying, hey, uh, these are the things you're doing wrong, right? And these are the things I think which you are doing right. So, and these are the things which you can improve. So, and in this scenario, you can say, these are the things which I believe you can improve. So you can write down the um, things to improve. And when that happens, right, you can actually write down the, priority one, the things which you can put as a priority one, priority two, priority three, sorry. So this is kind of a, you can say, okay, these are the things which you can say that, okay, build a mobile website, okay? So build a mobile app, okay? Add more courses. Say, probably you can say add Omni Studio course, okay? So which is the priority? So I can say build a mobile app should be the first priority, or add Omni Studio course is the second priority, and the last priority is to add MuleSoft course or whatever, right? Just to give you an example. So based on that, you can say these are the things which you can add to your course content so that to increase your sales, right? So these are the things you can actually build a relationship with the customer and be empathetic about it, right? Please do not be rude to a customer to say, hey, you're doing wrong. How do you expect to make money? You have to watch out your tone, right? Sometimes you might get pushback from your customer. Some of the business founders then say, hey, I think we are doing great. You're just suggesting a BS. So please do not take as personal when some of the founders might push back certain things, because they're very passionate people. But you have to understand from their perspective, right? That's why it's very important that you have to connect with the customer to suggest things, right? And say, hey, let's work together. Let's do a whiteboard session, right? Let's work out a priority. What do you think if you move this as a first option for your list? So you have to convey to your customer that you are here to help. You're not their enemy or something, right? You are here to help the business grow. So, right? So that's, I believe, it's a very powerful statement, and any founder or business owner will be happy to hear what exactly you're trying to offer, right? So now, once everything is done, right, let's create a final thing is that, let's create a case for a change, okay? Or other words, I would say plan of action. Okay, case for a change or plan of action. So now in that you have to review and you have to plan, right? So just draft a plan. Simple as it, right? And so to draft a plan, you have to review all the things which you discussed with your customer. In the previous slide, I talked about the priorities, P1, P2, P3. So you review all of it, put it in a plan to say, hey, P1 will be executed first, based on the way that works, right? And then P2, then P3, right? And then so, and then you can also, before you do that, you also, when you draft the plan, right? Please make sure to start with the problem. What they have, and just write it down. The problem what they have, and the business impact, and then you can also look at the problem levels, right? And then also the metrics. So these are, you can include as a part of the draft plan, because obviously, right, you need to explain to them. Uh, okay, let me just a second. Uh, Draft the plan, because you need to include all of this, right? Otherwise, when a stakeholder looks at the plan, they will say, why are we doing it, right? So you have to start with the problem, all right? to say what's the problem they're facing and the impact these problems have on the business, right? And then you have to factor the problem levels, right? Whether this is a business problem, whether this is a personal problem, or whether this is something else, right? Why you, as a business, you are facing this problem? Because the thing is that, right? As a consultant, you can't just say, "All right, do this, do that," because the stakeholder will ask, "Why should I do this?" Right? So you have to explain to them, "This is a problem, and this is a business impact, and why you think these problems are happening." Okay, and and how do you measure it, whether in the future whether you're going to experience this problem or not? So based on all the exercise what we've done, right? So you can pretty much uh, create a plan and say, okay, these are the priorities which we believe might help. So you can't, just say, okay, I think as a consultant you should do X, Y, Z, right? You cannot suggest that. You can say, let's work together to understand your priority, right? That's exactly what we did in this workshop. So you need to bring that forward to your plan to say, hey, as we agreed, you're gonna do the P1 first, and once you do the P1, let's run through this metrics. Do we still have the problem? If the say for instance you have a problem of a mobile website, okay? So once you build a mobile website, just do a analysis whether you're having a problem. Okay, no problem. And what business impact is going to have having a mobile website? You can say, more customers wanted to use your product because most of the people are, smartphone users. So instead of using a laptop, they can use your product, right? Problem levels, there's a problem level, metrics, how to measure it, more customers buying your course, right? Simple. I just gave you a fictitious, story information. Like I said, I cannot share anything around my business, right? Because my business partner will be extremely annoyed, and so I cannot share any of the details. Right? There are certain things which is confidential. The things which I've shared is pretty much open, right? So open to the people, and there are a lot of things which is absolutely confidential, and there's no way you're gonna hear from that, right? Some people have a very bad habit of asking personal questions. Read them off, right? They are absolutely unprofessional, in my opinion. And just one piece of advice: if you're a consultant, when you go to do a consultancy, please do not reveal information of a previous customer. Absolutely not. That should be, in my personal opinion, right? If I'm a CEO of a company, if I hear you spilling the beans of a previous customer, I'll let you go. This is as a disciplinary action, right? Because to me, that's a compliance issue. I mean, you can forgive mistakes, but and because the problem will happen, right? You reveal the secret of another customer to another customer, right? I mean, you can talk about certain things which is available on the website. You can say it's challenging to work there, challenging to do that. But if you start giving nitty gritty stuff of the customer, working style, the customer might file a lawsuit against your firm, right? And this is it's going to bring a reputation down. So uh, pay very special attention to it, and that's why Salesforce really emphasize on you understanding the importance of a discovery workshop, right? It's very important. You might have done it, so please pay attention to it next time. When if you by accidentally if you revealed things, some customer they do not give much importance to it, but some customers take it very seriously, right? So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is important from your exam point of view, so as well as from a real life consultant experience point of view, right? So thank you very much for listening to me today. I hope you guys have an amazing Sunday. Adios.